All right, hello, my name is Shelly, and I'm the creator of this channel, True Sky Astrology. I want to welcome you here to this video today, to the space and place, and to whatever is going to come out of my mouth. So before I dig into this video, I want to welcome you here, and I want to welcome any new subscribers. Hello, I see you guys coming in, and always thanking the ones who have been here with me since March 23rd, 2023. You guys are all like so loved. Without you guys, I don't have a channel, right? So thank you for being here. Now, my channel, as of late, has been focusing on my transition from a Western tropical perspective of myself and of the world into a true sidereal perspective of how I view my own energies, my own birth chart, and the world around me. So it has been a wild ride. You can check out my previous videos to learn more about that. But yeah, it's been wild. It's been wild shifting my perspective and learning myself through a different lens and learning the different energies that are present around me and with me. So this video today, I've been feeling this brew for quite some time, and I'm going to share with you guys what that is. In astrology, some of you are going to know this, but I'm going to go to the very basics, okay? Because if somebody comes across this video that doesn't really know anything of what I'm talking about, I want them to be able to get something from this as well. I believe one of my great strengths is being able to give value to both the beginner and the advanced seeker. So if you're an advanced seeker, you know, just go with me. Have the beginner's mind and feel into the energy and the energetics of what I'm saying, as opposed to the mental, oh, I already know this type of thing. So today we're going to start a series, and this series that I'm about to share with you each day is going to be focusing on the different houses and the different houses that we find within our birth chart. So from the Western tropical perspective, there's 12 houses. And in True Sidereal Astrology, there's a 13th zodiac that we'll go into after. But there's a 13th, right? So it's broken down not just 1 to 12, there's a 13th added into it. However, what I want to do is talk about the houses from not just a mental perspective or a mind perspective, but really from an energetic perspective. So if you're someone like me who's just learned your true sidereal placements and you're, you know, beginning to navigate working with those energies and those new zodiacs in your houses, right? Because from a Western tropical perspective, you're going to have different zodiacs in your houses, right? So again, it doesn't matter if you're a beginner or you're seasoned, but let's just talk about that first house, right? And again, I am not a certified professional. I am not an astrologer. I am not anything. I am sharing with you from my lens, my perspective, my awareness, my connection, what's coming through. So please don't microscope me. And if you do have something to say it in a positive way, because I'm always open to feedback as long as it's kind, okay? But I'm tuning in energetically mostly to this first house. So the first house is the house that is connected to the great I am, right? So, you know, in the spiritual community, we know the power of I am. An I am statement is really about claiming. It's about stating that there's no separation, right? I am those energies. So whatever is in our first house, whatever zodiac is attached to that house, right? Whatever energy. So for myself and my chart, it is Virgo. Virgo in my true sidereal chart is in my first house, okay? And this is also where we find the ascendant. So we find that ascendant, which is the most rounded, aligned, energetic, not just expression, but if you were to take a person and their makeup and their energy and kind of put it in a cauldron and let it come out, right? Your ascendant is how I feel very similar to that, right? Of course, we have all these different planets doing all these different things, and having all these different energies, but the ascendant is really what we're gonna connect with that person with the most, if that makes sense. Okay, so that first house of I am is so important. It's huge. And I feel like, even for myself, right, I have a stellium in my first house, but it doesn't matter. Even if I didn't have a stellium, even if I only had the energies working in that house, it's so important to know what energies am I working with in the house of I am. Okay, so I want you to just feel something with me for a moment. Whatever energies are in that first house, you've come into this world with, right? You can't escape it. It's part of you. It's part of your essence. It's part of your being. It's something that you carry with you through all other stages and all situations in your life. So having a good understanding of your first house, and if there are planets in there, really understanding what those planets are, how those planets interact and work with each other if there's more than one, right? So when we're looking at our chart and we're looking at all the different houses and all the different pieces, they're all a part of us. They're all important. Like, even if we look at the runes that are surrounding me right now, right? A birth chart is very similar. The houses are broken down into sections in this circle, right? And they're surrounding us. So without the base, right? Without that first house understanding, integration, connection, it's going to impact how we integrate and how we work with our planets and our other houses that come after it. So that's why I feel it's really important that we go through this process, and it's worthy of me doing these videos on, okay? So that first house is I am. And for you watching this, I am what, right? What is there for you? What is in your first house? That's really going to be important for you to know. So those of you, I'm going to assume, if you do know what's in your first house of I am, just keep going with me. If you don't know what is in your first house of I am, then you want to pause this video. Now remember, Athen has a chart calculator that's free that you can click on the link in my description to find your placements. Now, in his free report, mini report, it only shows you 2 placements. So that's not going, it might tell you your ascendant, I'm not sure, right? And your ascendant would be what's in that first house, but it might not. So I'm going to actually put in this video on the side here, I'm going to put the different symbols of the different planets and what they mean. So that's going to be a work in progress for me, but I want you to be able to look at the chart, the picture of the chart, and be able to read it and read the corresponding shapes, symbols with what planet that is or what zodiac that is. Okay, so I'm giving myself some work, but that's fine. So when you know the energies that you're working with in that first house and that I am, when I feel into the energy of I am, it's like it goes through every little ounce and cell of my body, right? It's in my bones, it's in my blood, it's in my DNA, it's everywhere. The I am isn't something really logical. It's more of something that we feel into, we connect with, we allow to be us. So if we're not grounded in our I am, or, and this is, you know, what I've talked about in the other videos, based on our Western tropical charts, if we do know our first house, we're grounding into energies that aren't even correct. So previously to January, when I was connecting into that I am, I'm connecting into Libra energy. So that Libra energy, which I could connect in with, right? I could feel it. I still can. I can tap into that vibration and frequency. It's not actually aligned. It's not the actual energy that was there in my first house when I was born. So one of the possible dangers there is that I was creating from that I am place, and possibly you can resonate with this as well, from connecting with the wrong zodiac, the wrong energies, the wrong lens and viewpoint, right? So there's something really powerful when we switch and we go into where the planets actually were when we were born, right? So based on when I was born, right, that zodiac that's in my first house is Virgo. That's the real energy, and that's the energy that is going to be the most useful, if you choose, for me to ground in, focus on, feel, and operate in, right? And I talk about this a lot in other videos. You can go through my daily True Sidereal Astrology videos, and you're going to really begin to kind of get the lens in which I'm talking about when I'm talking about some of these things. So, the I am. Now, if you have no planets, and the only thing in that space is your ascendant, which don't get me wrong, that's a big thing, right? There tends to be sometimes in the astrology community, which it's so funny because this is why I've stayed out of astrology communities, Reiki communities, like all these communities where there's all these like hidden like innuendos and taboos and silent rules and all of that, right? Astrology is no different. But the thing is that there are many ways that we can, get our credentials in astrology, and we can, feel like we know and feel like we have it. But the truth is, this information is for all of us, and that we all have a way of working with this energy, communing with this energy, and even going deeper. Right? What I see with a lot of astrologers that I've seen personally, watching people, is a lot of them have a very good mental understanding of the information they're sharing. It's great. But very few are energetically aligning, working with, and expressing and teaching in that way. And for myself, for me, the mental understanding, yeah, it's important, but the energetic component of it and understanding of it and integration is what translates out into our world and actually, makes a massive ripple effect. So it's more important, okay? Not really sure where I'm going with this. Back to that first house, okay? So I want you to just take a moment. When I feel the first house, and again, I have no training on this, I haven't read, I don't know, and I'm sure that it's connected to the root chakra in some way, shape, or form. It's just common sense, right? So we can go to the root, the base of our spine, the base of where this energy really, comes together and starts molding. That's where I feel it. It's like a powerhouse. That I am is like sitting in that root. And the stronger we are in it, the more connected we are, the more empowered we are, the more, I keep hearing the word forgiving we are. And I think that that's going to be something important I'm going to go into, because I keep hearing it. It's like being shouted at me, like loud. So that's going to be really important. So the more forgiving we are towards ourselves, right? Towards ourselves and our mistakes and our hiccups and all these things that we have that we're like, right? Again, we can say even shadow, but shadow for me tends to just blanket it. Let's just say what it is: shame, guilt, hate, disgust, fear, all of those things that sit in there. The more free we are from those things, and the more powerful we are in our I am from an empowered standpoint, right? The I am. So whatever zodiac is in your first house, and I got the Virgo, right? I can look at those higher aspects of that Virgo energy, and I can really own that and ground that, feel that in my root, allow that to become my reality, right? When I claim my I am, or you claim your I am, just because you've operated in your life in ways that are contradictory towards that I am, right? Because at first, when we start doing this, it might feel like it's not truth, or, it's like, oh, well, I'm not operating like that. I'm not whatever. When you have the courage, when I have the courage to not attach what I've done, how I've behaved, or, to that, and I claim what I am, and I hold what I am, that's going to be what translates out into my world, right? The same is going to be for you. Now, the low octave behaviors and things that come up and come out, right? We can be with those. And not claim them as our truth, right? So when I slip or I do something that's out of my character, that's out of my highest and best self, right? It's not that I've I've done something wrong. Yeah, it's not that I've done something wrong. It's that I've gone off course of the truth of who and what I am. So when we slip or when we fall, it's just about bringing ourselves back to that truth and remembering that it's you who creates your I am. It's me that creates my I am. I am always in charge. And this is going to be the same for all of the different houses that we dig into over, the next week or two. When we are looking at these energies, we need to remember nobody's controlling us. We are not victims. The world around us isn't enslaving us. If we believe that and we buy into that, we're going to have a really hard time having energetic sovereignty and power within our own vessel. Now, this isn't to say that the information that we're being fed isn't, not right or isn't intentionally leading us in a specific, direction. It is, and it's absolutely, but when we focus on that, right? And this is what we see a lot in the spiritual community. A lot of people focused on, oh, this person's cursing me or this is happening. And don't get me wrong, I get cursed at all the time. I can feel stuff and I have to deal with stuff all the time. It's real. It's coming at us, but we choose how we handle it. We choose how we move through it. We choose how we create with it, right? So if we're feeling or seeing or observing or interacting with outside energies that are telling us that we are something other than what we know we truly are, it's our choice if we let those energies inside of us or not. It's our choice what we decide to create from. So I feel it's really important that we are empowered, okay? That we don't fall into victimhood. And victimhood is just when we forget our power. We forget, like when you look at astrology, get excited. When you look at all these houses and these zodiacs and understanding this is your power. And the more you understand it, and especially coming from a true sidereal perspective, knowing that now you're working with energies that are actually in the right spots, that we're actually, in that position that you believed it to be, you're going to create even more powerfully than you've ever created before. Get excited. Get excited because we are only weak, vulnerable when we forget our power, when we forget it. So remember that when you're out in your day, even if this is in your home, even if you have combative energies that you have to live with and deal with every day, right? Remember, they don't get to control you. You decide how you feel. You decide how you think. You decide how you operate. You decide how you project yourself, right? Project those energies of I am. So even when the daggers are coming at you and they're coming at you hard, remember who you are. Remember, and that's what, those energies, if they can knock you off balance and you forget who you are and you start creating that I am from low octaves or from a dark place, that's when life gets really messed up. So no judgment. This is something important is as I'm speaking this, and you may be feeling a lot, emotion might be coming up. You might be feeling where you've been off or you haven't been, expressing yourself in the empowered way that you desire to want to be. Like, you may be feeling this. I want you to just come into your center and feel it, but decide something different. I'm going to be committed to creating how I want to. How I want to be seen, how I want to live my life. I'm going to be creating from that point. And that is your birthright. That is your energetic expression coming into power. Okay? So that first house is the house of I am. I want you, if this feels right for you, this is what I'm going to do. Especially today, I'm going to really be sitting with that I am. I am. Right? And for my own self, right, I have 5 planets in my first house, and they're not easy planets to have in that first house. The I am, right, in the Virgo, but I have my Pluto there, I have my moon there, I have my Saturn there, right? There's so much happening there, and there's a lot, like those are all, you know, tricky energies to have in that first house coming into, right? So I've come in with like, there's no escaping my karma. There's no escaping destruction of certain situations. Like I came in with these energies. So the I can look at that from a really negative way. I like, you know, and I have in my own journey been lost many times. I have been lost. But I've also, as I've learned to work with these energies and realize the alchemizing power of utilizing them in their highest octave, right? I can see the power of creating the karma and having to clear it up, the death and destruction and leaving things that weren't meant to go on to what is meant. There's something that happens, okay? So whatever is there in your first house, there's no such thing as a bad placement in your first house. Now, I just downloaded some astrology software for this course that I'm taking with Alan from Mastering the Zodiac. And you know, you can click on the planets and it'll give a description of what that planet is doing in that house. And I have to remind everybody who's into astrology, be careful with that. Be careful with the blanketed interpretations of, like, this is a software program, right? So the software program is interpreting the position of the planet and the house based on the little bit of information that has been inputted into the software that reflects that position, right? It's so limited. Like, we're talking about infinite possibilities when we're talking about houses and energies and the planets. Like, we're talking about big stuff. So do not take things literal. Do not take things literal. And I'll give you an example of one on my chart. Virgo, in my Mars is in Virgo in the 12th house. And there's this like warning about like staying out of the spiritual world, right? It's actually quite funny, the wording of it. And when you look at the other placements in my chart, they're like this is clearly part of your identity. So if we're looking at these things and we take in the information you read literal, like, it would really confuse people. And I feel like a lot of people in astrology, a lot of astrologers quit and they don't do their work. I know this for fact, right? Because there's so much contradiction and there's so much, they don't actually know how to intuitively read and connect with the energies. So this is, for me, what True Sky Astrology is about and why I'm doing these videos and sharing them with you, because as we begin to like intuitive and feel and be with this energy in a new way, right? We're going to open up to the infinite potential. And that's really what I feel True Sidereal Astrology has done, is it's given me a key. It's given you a key. It's given everybody that wakes up and comes to it a key to working with the actual energies and the infinite possibilities, right? So don't get locked in to an interpretation of your chart. Don't get like, oh God, it says stay out of the spiritual world or I'm going to be cursed. That's not true. And that's like, just, I mean, that could happen in that placement, sure. But a chart is a whole picture that this software just can't touch. So again, I'm not knocking the software. I'm not knocking anything. I'm just saying you got to trust in your own perception and your own understanding of energies and how they work. When I look at that Mars placement in the 12th house, that's a tricky placement. It is not an easy placement to have your Mars, because it's in this like subjective reality that people, it's not concrete. It's not right here. It's far. So to me, it's more exciting and difficult, yes, but again, I mean, that's kind of how I am. If something is difficult, it intrigues me. So it's just going to be a different way, a more complicated way than having your Mars like straight up in your first house and with that Virgo energy, right, in my 12th house. Yeah, it's an interesting placement, but it is not doom and gloom, and it is not, you shouldn't do this. So whatever you may have locked in about your chart and like these barriers, like, oh, my chart says this and this, so I can't do that. I invite you to let go, to let go, to be open, to allow in new interpretations and ways of seeing and allow in the new I am, right? So I'm going to close this video up pretty quick here, but this is it. So for that first house, we're just setting the intention that as you've been listening and as we're talking, that you are integrating, you are activating, that this first house is coming up for you more powerfully than it ever has before, okay? So this is the deep dive for the first house. My daughter's coming out. She is ready to interact with me. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next video on the second house. Please like this video, share this video. Tell me what you thought about this video in the first house. I would love to know, where is your first house? What's in there? Last thing I want to say, do not be worried, especially if you're doing true sidereal astrology, of people messing with your birth chart and your energies. I'm going to share my whole chart because guess what? I believe if we're actually linked into our actual energies, there's no way no one can mess with us. So thank you so much for watching, and we will talk soon. Bye-bye.